Last winter something astonishing, something extraordinary happened to me in this forest. This documentary examines the greater questions surrounding what happened. All of the characters in this story are real.
Good morning. Today is a very special day because today we're going mushroom hunting. So last night we camped out in the small town of Balingup, and it is a well-known place for growing a very specific type of mushroom. We had a big heavy rainfall yesterday and last night, so it's perfect conditions to find these kinds of mushrooms.
Here we are in the Balingup forest, with conditions ideal for fungus growth. This is the time of the year for mushrooms and toadstools. The trees, the grass, the dampness, everything is right for them to fruit. And amongst these little toadstools on the ground are to be found the little brown mushroom, the most famous of which are the psilocybe mushrooms or magic mushrooms. And this is the reason why at this time you'll see furtive figures in the background searching for these little treasures.
I came to live in Balingup about 10 years ago. As far as I know, there were no mushroom pickers then. They started about 3 or 4 years ago, and the numbers have been building up steadily. Last year was a really bad year for lots of people.
Even the alternatives in this community were banding together to try and sort of stomp it down a little bit. And we were, a few people were actually helping the police, taking number plates.
And we're off. So the specific mushroom we're looking for is a Psilocybe subaeruginosa, also known as subs in this region. Now, these mushrooms are highly illegal, and the foraging or harvesting of these mushrooms is highly targeted by the local police. So there's one specific road where these mushrooms are said to be found in abundance, and to walk along that side of the road is a little suspicious. And for any police officer, it would be just a little too obvious as to what we're doing. So we decided to take the other side of the path, which is conveniently a long hiking trail, which is why we have our backpacks. So if anyone asks us, we're just on a long through hike, and maybe we happen to stumble across a few mushrooms.
Having broken the rule, this sort of great divide of being a non-drug user into being a drug user, what then happens is that you sort of throw away a lot of the messages, the health messages, and you actually become more deviant in many ways, because you've learned that you can break this law, the world doesn't crash in around your feet.
So therefore you tend to go on and do and break other and transgress other rules as well.
And you have to be really careful. This isn't just something you go and pick some mushrooms and eat them. And obviously, we would never pick these mushrooms or take them with us or consume them. That would be highly illegal. We're simply going out just like bird watchers, just to observe them. So it is a little late in the season for these mushrooms. However, it's been really wet this year, and obviously the rain brings lots of mushrooms and fungus and that kind of thing. So we're holding out hope. The best place to find these kinds of mushrooms are under pine trees. So luckily I have my resident pine expert here, Brendan. He just spent an entire season planting these beasts, so he'll be able to identify them real quick for us. But we're gonna hop into the bush as soon as we see like maybe a little clearing where it feels a little mushroomy.
The police enforce this law in a highly arbitrary fashion, and we know that the sort of person that's likely to be busted for any drug offence is likely to be predominantly male, working class, unemployed, and who are the traditional enemies of the police force. That's what the police are doing, is having a good day out and enjoying the fact that they're enforcing the law.
We've spotted our first pine. Fortunately, it's on someone's property. We're not going to get that risky just yet.
I said, did you eat any of them? You replied, yeah. I said, how many? About half a dozen.
What about your mates?
Did they eat any? You replied, I don't know. I said, what did you intend to do with the ones you picked?
You blind heathen.
The smell of mycelium is strong in this area. Unfortunately, we are yet to find any fruiting bodies. Ah, our first pine tree. Let's get looking. This clover seems to be overgrowing this area, but luckily it does seem to keep the ground very damp. That'd be perfect conditions for growing these mushrooms. Ah, our first mushroom species. Now, we'll have to do a bit more identification, but this could be what we're looking for.
Let's find one of these magic mushrooms and have a look at it to see what its characteristics are. And notice how very different the young and the old are. This is characteristic of mushrooms and toadstools. You can never really be safe just looking at one.
We are in the right location.
The most famous of which are the psilocybin mushrooms or magic mushrooms.
You can see that the frills have opened up. This mushroom has already dropped its spores, so it is definitely late in the season. Now, if we can find any more, that would be amazing, but this is the perfect sign to show we're in the right spot. Now I'm going to put this back exactly where I found it.
It's God's garden and I choose to eat it.
Just like bird watchers, just to observe them.
Our main concern in relation to the mushrooms is the consumption of them.
We've come across a few more. Now these look quite old. Another sign that we're at the end of the season. Hard to do identification on a mushroom this old, but there's a little patch of them here. We'll keep looking in this area. Hopefully we can find some fresh ones. Looks like we found a small umbrella bonnet. Not 100% sure, but either way, don't think this one's edible. I believe this one is a splendid red skinhead. These look a little more promising. Very interesting. Now that is a pretty unique mushroom. First looking at this, I thought it was like a loofah or something that someone had thrown into the bush. Nice little patch of mushrooms in this little hole. So we found many mushrooms so far. Many lookalikes, not exactly what we're looking for. A lot of people are kind of questioning how this one little area got so many mushrooms and why it's so known for these mushrooms.
Now, I've got no idea personally how the mushrooms first started in the area. There has been rumoured that
An old hippie from many years gone by brought some back from overseas and planted them, and they've just taken off from there.
Now, one theory is that magic mushrooms actually arrive randomly on Earth and that they travel as spores on cosmic dust through space, and that the hallucinations they provide are actually the messages of aliens from other worlds. And there's even the theory that Christianity has its roots in a magic mushroom culture. In other words, Jesus Christ is a mushroom.
Well, legend has it that back in the day, some hippie came down here and fed some mushrooms to a cow. And because the spores of these mushrooms can live in the guts of cows and obviously grow on the cow patties, they were able to kind of sustain themselves in this area and spread throughout the forests and to the pine forests. And that is the theory of why this one specific location has so many mushrooms.
But however the magic mushrooms got here, there's no doubt that they're here to stay. Their spores are going to be distributed all over the southwest, and they will become more and more common.
So, not a mushroom, but someone left an egg here. Hopefully the little egg does well.
All of us are on some dimension from being absolutely sane to crazy.
One of the questions I think we should ask ourselves is why people need to take drugs, why they need to, their lives are so unfulfilled that they're really into all this sort of stuff.
Solidarity and camaraderie of getting slightly mellowed out while doing something that's illegal. And, you know, we're all in this together, folks.
Prohibition, in fact, is really a conspiracy of first world countries against third world countries. What you have the drugs of the first world, alcohol, tobacco, pharmaceutical products as legal things, where the drugs of the third world, coca, opium and cannabis are illegal. And the interesting thing about magic mushrooms is that originally they were a third world product.
It's extremely difficult to identify magic mushrooms, and because they're illegal, there's no information available to help you get it right. And even if you find a reference for a picture of one in a book in a library, I often find when you turn to the right page, the picture's been ripped out. So people choose their mushrooms by trial and error based on word-of-mouth descriptions, which can end in disaster considering there are deadly poisonous mushrooms out there.
The contacts I've had with them, they've been very nice people. There were two young boys there with guitars under the bridge, sheltering from the rain, and I had a really nice talk to them. I thought they were great.
Well, I reckon it's got to be more than just a coincidence that red mushrooms with white spots have so often been used to illustrate children's books. Now, perhaps the authors and illustrators of children's books have really been drug fiends who have surreptitiously programmed us all from a very young age, and that's why society is so dependent on drugs.
And if kids today want to go out and get on drugs, I reckon they should be allowed to.
Looks like there's some slugs eating this one already. Interesting that sometimes the mushrooms are harmless, but the slugs that eat them aren't harmless. So if you're to eat that mushroom, some of the slug goo would still be on the mushroom, could get you sick. Alright, we spent the better part of this morning hunting mushrooms, and this forest is full of them. Unfortunately, just not the ones that we were specifically looking for today. I think it might just be a little too late in the season, so we'll have to come back next year, but I don't know about you, but I'm starting to feel a little bit weird. Yeah. Make sure you guys tune in next time for another adventure. These things are powerful. You should never consume any kind of wild mushroom without an insane amount of research or an expert with you.
There are old mushroom pickers, there are bold mushroom pickers, but there are no old bold mushroom pickers.
Yes, there are drugs available, and yes, they are interesting things to do.